Welcome back to Wrong Sports, and I've had a lot of people comment on some of my other videos about, hey, how about you do a video on high school football? Well, I would love to, except for the fact that there are a lot of topics to cover, a lot of teams, a lot of coaches, just a lot of things to cover. So I figure in my first kind of video about high school football, I do a video about the high school football coaches that transitioned right into college football. This means that they went right from high school head football coaching into college head football coaching, no coordinator transition year in between, no off year in between, just straight from high school into college. And instead of this being a list of the best high school to college coaches, I'm going to do a list of the worst high school into college coaching because there are more bad than good. And a lot of them are very recent because a lot of the high school into college coaching before World War II actually worked out well. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Before I get to the list, though, make sure as always you subscribe to the channel below. And of course, ring the bell so you can get updates on brand new videos. And of course, make sure you like and share this video with other college football fans. Plus, you can help out my channel on my Patreon or on my podcast, or check out my social media. All the links are in the description below. And to start off this list, I'm going to have a name that you might not know about unless you are a Texas football historian. His name is Gene Mayfield, and he was the man that is named the father of Mojo after his time at Permian High School in Odessa, Texas. Gene was a high school quarterback and then joined the Army during the Korean War. After the war, he would start playing college football at West Texas A&M and quickly moved into coaching after college. He started at Littlefield High School in Texas before moving to Gorger High School in 1958, and he quickly made that school a winner as he got them to the 4A state title game in 1962, but lost. But due to that, it would bring him his most famous job, as he got the job at a pretty new high school, Permian High School in Odessa, Texas, in 1965. I say they were new because they only opened their doors in 1959, and their football team was around 500 for most of that time. But as soon as Mayfield got there, he started the winning tradition, as he took the team to the 1965 4A state title and won it. And this would make Mayfield only the fifth head coach in the highest classification in Texas to win a state championship in his first year. And because of that season, he would gain the name of Father of Mojo because of the winning he did for this pretty new school. And Mayfield would then lead Odessa Permian to the state titles on two other occasions in 1968 and 1970, losing both times. But in the 5 years at Permian, he was 62-10-2. But he's on this list because he's one of the earliest coaches I can find that immediately went from high school to college, as he would succeed Joe E. Kerbal at his alma mater, West Texas A&M. But even though Mayfield got the job at his alma mater, he would only have one winning season, as he went 6-5. And he even won the Missouri Valley Conference in his second season of 1972, even though the team went 5-5. That was mostly because he couldn't get top talent, as West Texas A&M were one of the smallest schools in the University Division, which was the top division in the NCAA at this point. Mayfield would leave West Texas A&M in 1977, going 24-39-2, and never went back to college coaching, and actually retired for a bit after that job before going back into high school coaching in 1982, but only did that for a few years. Overall, his high school coaching record was 178-71-8, and basically, it was the opposite of his college football career. Next up on the list of worst high school coaches to college is Bob Cummings and his time at the University of Iowa. Bob Cummings ended up getting the job at Iowa because he was an excellent lineman on some very good Iowa teams in the 1950s. And after serving as a Hawkeyes assistant for 2 years, he settled into a very successful high school coaching career in his native Ohio for more than a decade. He started at Struthers High School in Struthers, Ohio from 1962 to 1968, getting a 50-16-4 record. But he would gain his biggest fame at Washington High School in Massillon, Ohio, which had a history of great high school coaches, and he continued that run as his teams went 43-6-2 with 2 state titles over the 5 seasons he was there. His best team was in 1970 when his team went 10-0, outscoring their opponents 412-29. They would also get some votes for the national high school title. But he would come to Iowa at a point where Iowa had not posted a winning record since 1961 and had gone 0-11 in 1973. Cummings stated that the Iowa job was the only college job he would ever want, and he offered to work with a one-year contract if necessary just to get the job. Cummings even said, "All I want is the job. If they told me I had to come pick corn in the offseason to get the job, I would have done it." And he would even politic all around Iowa with a big barnstorming tour just to get the job. And Cummings would get the job and start in 1974, as they would have a brutal schedule, which started with 4 ranked teams, and they managed to win one of them as they upset the number 12 ranked UCLA at home. That game probably helped the fans forget that the team would finish 3-8 and only win 2 games in the Big Ten that season. The team in 1976 managed to have a 4-4 record and had 3 games left and just had to win 2 of them to get a winning record. Unfortunately, they lost 2, and they weren't really close at all in either of them. The 1977 season was looking actually pretty good, as they started off 3-2, but then they had a bad loss to Ohio State at home, and then they would lose 3 more games to end the season to finish 4-7. The 1978 season would start with a big 17-point win over Northwestern, but then Iowa proceeded to lose 8 in a row. And these were ugly too, since the offense couldn't score, only getting double digits in 2 of those 8 losses, and the defense was giving up over 30 points per game. After that dreadful season, Cummings would be let go, and he would go back to Ohio to coach another decade in the high school ranks. Coming up next is probably the most infamous high school to college coaching transitions, and it was even more infamous because it happened at Notre Dame. Jerry Faust was a player at Dayton under a former head coach in Hugh DeVore, and was actually offered a scholarship at Notre Dame by DeVore, but went to Dayton instead. And after playing, Faust would go to Moeller High School in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1962 and build up the football program from scratch. And he would do an amazing job as he coached there for 18 years, going 178-23-2, and that included 7 unbeaten seasons and 4 national prep titles and also 5 Ohio State titles in his final 6 seasons there. And his final 5 years at the high school level were amazing, as they went 59-1, winning 4 state titles and churning out tons of college prospects. That would get him on the radar of Notre Dame, who had seen his record and the great athletes that he was producing at the school, and they were looking to not only get the players, but possibly the coach from that school. Along with that, Jerry Faust was a devout Roman Catholic, so that impressed Notre Dame too. But even more so, Jerry Faust was just a huge fan of Notre Dame, and probably would have taken the job for absolutely nothing. Because of that, and because of the amount of success he had at the high school level, Notre Dame would offer Jerry Faust the coveted Notre Dame head coaching job after the 1980 season when Dan Devine stepped down. Faust would take the job, and when he got there, he saw 9 players from his Moeller program on the roster, plus a winning team from the previous year. Because of that, Notre Dame began the 1981 season ranked number 3 and quickly ascended to number 1 after beating LSU 29-7. But that was in their opening game, and they wouldn't last long at the top of the rankings, as they would lose the next week to Michigan and then lost the following week to send them out of the top 25. The Irish would never get ranked again that season, as they ended with a 5-6 record, which was the Irish's first losing season in 18 years. Jerry Faust's next 3 teams were better, as they went 6-4-1 in 1982, and then got a little bit better as they went 7-5 and got bowl invites in 1983 and 1984. That would get the fan base really excited for the 1985 season, and the media was too, as they ranked the Irish in the preseason rankings at number 13. But then they had a wacky season, starting with 3 losses out of 4, and then winning 4 in a row to get to a 5-3 record. But their final 3 games would be against the number 1 ranked Penn State, then the number 17 LSU, and then top 5 ranked Miami. Penn State would start it off by crushing them by 30. Then they would lose a heartbreaking 10-7 game to LSU to be at 5-5 when they would play the University of Miami. But there would be bigger news before that game, because it was looking like Jerry Faust was going to get fired from the University of Notre Dame. But instead of him letting the university fire him, he would announce that he was resigning, and he would make the Miami game his final game. and it would be an embarrassing, bruising affair as they lost 58-7, and this game got some press because Miami never put their foot on the brake as they scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter when the game was completely out of reach. Faust would leave soon after with a 30-26-1 record in 5 seasons. He would then take over as head coach at Akron, where he went 43-53-3 with a pair of 7-win seasons before he was fired with a 1-10 record in 1994. Up next is one that's a little bit more recent, and it's a little bit bigger since it happened in Texas. This is Todd Dodge and his time at North Texas. He was quarterback at Texas from 1982 to 1985, then quickly moved into coaching. He was only an assistant in high school for 6 years before becoming a coach. He started in 1994 and would coach 4 teams over the next 12 years. His best run came at Carroll High School in Southlake, Texas. He would do an incredible job and have a coaching run that would really never be seen before in Texas, as he went 79-1 from 2002 to 2006, with the lone loss being by 1 point in the state title game. He twice won USA Today's National Coach of the Year, and he did all of this at the 5A level in Texas, which was the largest classification in the state at that time. It was only a week or two after his final state title, though, that the University of North Texas would call him and hire him for their head football job. The reason for his hiring was, besides all of the winning, he had produced 5 of Texas's Offensive Players of the Year and was looked at as a possible offensive coordinator at a big school. But before he could even be a coordinator, he would start his head coaching run, and it would be a tough one. North Texas were in the Sun Belt and had finished last or near last the previous 2 years, so he was coming into a complete overhaul. He would be able to implement his spread offense, which could score points, as they would average 20-plus points per game, but he wasn't the best at defense, and that showed in the first 2 years, as the North Texas defense gave up 45 points per game in 2007 and 2008, which resulted in 3 wins and 21 losses. The defense got much better in 2009, only allowing 35 points per game, but they still finished 2-10. His 4th season was starting out 0-3 and looking pretty bad, but he finally would get a win, but then would lose 3 more games, and he would be fired. Todd Dodge went 6-37 at North Texas over 4 years, and he would be back in the coaching ranks as he would be a quarterback coach at Texas for the 2011 season before going back to the high school level. He is currently at Austin Westlake, and his most recent teams have won 45 of the last 46 games and 3 straight titles from 2019 to 2021. And we're just going in order here. We still got 2 more guys left. And this guy's story is going to sound a lot like Todd Dodge's story, but it's a little fresher in people's minds. Tony Sanchez is the coach I'll be going over now. He was a player as a wide receiver at New Mexico State in the mid-1990s and would spend a season as a student assistant with the Aggies after that. He would then go into high school coaching in New Mexico and Texas as an assistant for 6 years before getting his first head coaching job in 2004 at California High School in San Ramon, California. Sanchez would turn around California High from the dormant status to a berth in the North Coast Sectional Finals. After that, he would move east to Las Vegas to take over Bishop Gorman High. Bishop Gorman were known as a powerful team, but under Sanchez, they became an absolute powerhouse and were unbeatable. In 6 years at Bishop Gorman, Tony Sanchez would coach the team to an 85-5 record with 6 consecutive state championships, plus they were undefeated in their conference, going 37-0. While Bishop Gorman High School were becoming a nationwide high school program, UNLV weren't really well known anymore. They were a dormant team. They had gone just 2-11 in 2014 and hadn't had a winning season since 2000. Just days after the 2014 season and just days after Bishop Gorman would win another state title, the Nevada System of Higher Education Board of Regents would vote unanimously to hire Tony Sanchez as the head football coach at UNLV. This was an unprecedented move, and Todd Dodge's career was still fresh in a lot of people's minds, but I guess the Nevada System of Higher Education Board of Regents were looking for someone to turn around this program and also looking for a coach that could potentially bring in top talent. Well, Tony Sanchez really didn't do all that bad. His teams would make incremental improvements as they started 3-9, then would go to 4-8, and then to 5-7, and it was finally looking like they would get a bowl berth in his fourth season, but after starting 2-1, they would lose 6 games in a row and give up over 40 points per game to end the year 4-8. Even though the team went backwards in his fourth season, he was given a fifth year, but once again they finished 4-8. They would beat an SEC team, but it was Vanderbilt. And that was really the best thing I could find from his coaching tenure. He would be let go after the 2019 season, but after sitting out the 2020 season, he would spend 2021 as an offensive assistant at TCU and is now the wide receivers coach at his alma mater, New Mexico State. Finally, to end the list, this guy only lasted 1 year, but he made tons of headlines before and during he took the job at Presbyterian. His name is Kevin Kelly. Kelly would start as a high school teacher in Carrollton, Texas, as well as a 7th grade football coach on top of scouting for the high school football team. He would do this from 1993 to 1997, and then would move to the school where he would make history, in Arkansas at Pulaski Academy in Little Rock. He was offensive coordinator at the school from 1997 to 2002, and it was where he would create and perfect his new offense and his new way of playing the game. His offense was a video game style offense. They never punted. Yes, never punted. They would go for it even within their own 10-yard line. They would also only kick onside kicks unless his team was leading by 21 points or more. Plus, they went for 2-point conversions after touchdowns. This crazy offense and playing style would produce the top 12 highest single-season yardage totals in Arkansas high school history. And starting in 2016, his crazy offense and way of playing would draw a lot of eyes, as there's a 60 Minutes story on him, CBS went over him, ESPN interviewed him, and his name was brought up lots of times, as after the 2020 season, there were discussions about him possibly taking over the head coaching job at Kansas. This would have definitely raised a lot of eyebrows if it had happened, but Kelly was apparently asking for $90,000 per win at the school, which probably would have been tough, but I believe he was just joking. Kelly, though, would shockingly take a college job after the 2020 season, but it wasn't at a Division I FBS school. It was at a Division I FCS school that was non-scholarship in Presbyterian College. This school is the smallest school in FCS. It also has the lowest budget in the FCS. And he also took a pay cut for this job. But I guess Kelly was looking like he wanted to prove that his system could win even at the college level, even with a ton of handicaps. And after the first 2 games, it looked like it was going to go that way, as they scored 60-plus points in both of those games, and even their quarterback would set a record, as Ren Heffley threw for 10 touchdown passes in that second game. But they did this against non-Division I teams, so when they actually did play FCS schools, they got absolutely demolished. They would lose their final 9 games in 2021, and they gave up an average of 50-plus points in those 9 losses. They were never close in any of them either, including in all 8 of their conference games, which they played in the Pioneer Football League. And the Pioneer Football League teams didn't give out scholarships either, so it showed just how far behind Presbyterian was to everyone else. As shocking as Kelly's hiring was to Presbyterian, it was shocking to see that he resigned shortly after that season. I haven't been able to find a concrete reason for him leaving, but it wasn't the school's decision, it was actually his. He did not coach in 2022, and I don't know if he will end up anywhere in 2023. I wouldn't mind seeing this guy come back somewhere, maybe to a D2 school, maybe even to another FCS school, just so he could get some scholarships, because this guy really had a lot of handicaps taking that Presbyterian job. But there you go. There is my list of the worst high school to college coaches in the history of college football. There weren't many of them, and all of them were pretty terrible. There were a lot of good ones, though, before World War II, just not a lot of good ones after World War II. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Make sure you subscribe to the channel below. As always, like this video and share this video with other college football fans. And you can help out the channel in my Patreon. Link is in the description below. Have a fantastic rest of your day.